Welcome everyone to the ECE Week of the Young Child webinar series. This is a special presentation on a Saturday morning, first one we've ever done for ECE webinar series, at least as far as I can remember, that we've had on a Saturday morning. But this week really is a special week. It is the Week of the Young Child, as celebrated for the past 30 plus years by NACCE. I think it's actually maybe even more than that. And it is a week to celebrate young children and the importance of the quality programs that we provide for them, the care and nurturing that we give to them, and the support we share with their families. And so it's really just a great way to kick off the Week of the Young Child. And if you're wondering about it, you can always go to the NAEYC website at naeyc.org, and then you can learn more about Week of the Young Child from their perspective. You can also check out our social media pages at Rasmussen University for the Rasmussen School of Education, or going to the NACCE social media sites where you can find out more information there too. There is a special day every week that NACCE has designated to kind of help focus everything. But this year we've chosen the theme of play, and so we have a couple of webinars that Rasmussen is hosting on the subject of play. Today's webinar, and then also one on Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. Central Time. Kind of late, but we knew, you know, people got stuff going on Wednesday nights, and we knew we wanted to capture that crowd after you were able to settle down a little bit and relax for the evening. So we hope you can join us there as well. So let's jump in to introduce what's going on today. And I'd hate to not do a shameless plug. If you've been here on these sessions, you already know that I do this every time. But just to make sure that I do my due diligence for Rasmussen University, making sure you're aware of the degrees that we do offer at Rasmussen that are fully online degrees. And it's really exciting right now because we just reduced our tuition. And we did this because we were responding to the need for qualified early childhood educators out there in the workforce. There's a desperate need. There was already a shortage prior to the pandemic. And then with the pandemic and families choosing other options or staying home and programs closing and so on and so forth, you know, we are still in need of early childhood educators that are qualified to work with young children. And so we really wanted to make sure that degrees to get them qualified would be affordable. So take a look at our website for more information or to get more information, and you can also attend one of our information sessions. So we do offer those once a month now. You can register online through our website as well. They're about a half hour long. You save time for about 45 minutes for questions. There are questions following the information session, but it's really a good chance to get some information or share with your colleagues or friends and family that might be interested as well. You are in a WebEx classroom, and this is a place that we can gather together online. You are muted due to the fact you're probably and hopefully all at home, and hopefully you're comfy, so you do not need to use any webcams. You can turn off your webcams if you have them on. I don't know if you do, because you should be comfortable. It's a Saturday morning. You should be having your coffee or your warm Saturday morning beverage and sitting in your comfy clothes listening to this session. We recommend using your computer speakers instead of your phone, but you can switch back and forth. So if you've joined us using your phone, you know, cell phone, and that reception is poor, you can join using your computer microphone as well, or you can flip back the other way around. So if you are having technical difficulties during the session, try switching between the two. And if that's just horribly not working as well, desperation calls for just signing out and signing back in. Sometimes that reboot makes a difference. We're hoping that maybe some of the bandwidth issues that people might have will be lessened on a Saturday morning. If you need to add any comments or you want to share any thoughts, answer questions that I throw out there to the group, participate in the conversation, use the chat box on the bottom right-hand side. And that chat box, make sure you indicate in the little drop-down screen above that it's to all participants. So then that way we can have that conversation going between all of us and share our wisdom throughout, because I know you all have it. Oh, I forgot to change this sign. It should say 1 in-service hour awarded. I apologize for that. You will receive 1 in-service hour to you by email, and will come to you to the email that you registered with for this session within 48 business hours, which means because this is on a Saturday, you likely will not get this until end of day on Tuesday evening because of the holiday or because of the weekend. So just keep that in mind as you are looking for your certificate of training. And you'll want to double check your spam and junk folders too, just in case, because sometimes they just send them there because they do. And so you want to check there first. But if you then still don't have it, I would say by Wednesday morning, please let me know and we can track that down and get you your certificate as needed. So our facilitator is me. My name is Mary Muhs, and I am the department chair here at Rasmussen University for both early childhood education and human services. I have been with Rasmussen for almost 12 years, and prior to that, I worked hands-on in the early childhood education field as a center director, a teacher, a trainer, a coach, just kind of a little bit of everything with almost every age group. Actually, I think every age group in early childhood education. So I hope to be able to share some knowledge with you today, but then also facilitate some discussion with you about this subject of communicating play. So let's get started. So hopefully you can see my screen here. I came across this really cool PowerPoint template with lots of kids in it, so I loved it. But I want to give you a little bit of information as to why I chose this session. One, it's Week of the Young Child, right? So we're talking about play for Week of the Young Child, and we know with the pandemic the past 2 years that, you know, children have been thrown on computers. We've had preschoolers on computers, learning and doing preschool activities on computers, all the way up through our school agers and our college students being thrown online in maybe not so optimum circumstances. And we know the challenges that that's posed. And for littles, like the ones we care for, that means that they're doing less active play. And so play was a really logical subject for us that we were wanting to talk about. And it was something that is just kind of reminding ourselves that play is the foundation of learning for our children. But the walk the talk and talk the walk came out when I attended a, I guess you could say a talking session or kind of a webinar, I guess, but it was really more of a Q&A type of a thing with Lisa Murphy. And Lisa Murphy, if you know her, this is her Lisa Murphy book on play. She is the ooey gooey lady. That's how she got her start as the ooey gooey lady. But she is now a really huge advocate for play in early childhood education. And she's written a couple of amazing books, this one being the one, Lisa Murphy on Play, which is right here. So if you have not seen it, I encourage you to get it. The information's at the end of this session too on the reference slide. But I encourage you to get it. It's an easy read. It's a way for you, it's got great stuff to be able to put into practice ASAP. And she's got a few others that are equally as amazing. But we attended this session and we talked about how right now we feel like in early childhood education that we have to defend play. And we have to defend why we have play in our early childhood education programs with all of our ages, specifically defending play for kids in preschool. And how we shouldn't have to defend play. Because we know as early childhood educators in our educational background, in our training background, we know that play is what children do best. It's natural for them. It's their natural learning state. And according to Lisa Murphy, which I will share with you things throughout the session that inspired me from her, that play is the foundation of all learning. Without play, you have nothing else. Children don't know how to learn on their own without play. And so I really wanted to be able to talk to you about how can we walk the talk and talk the walk, meaning how can we tell people about play? How can we make sure that they don't say, oh, play-based, okay, or oh, you guys play all day? And I know that's kind of a cliche at this point. We talk about a lot as early childhood folks that, you know, play is important, and people always, ask us, and they always say, well, what about play? Why do children play? What play isn't learning? And we're always having to defend ourselves, but we really are having to defend ourselves. So how can we, I guess, defend ourselves, but then how can we also talk about play all the time so that parents and stakeholders understand that play is what children do, and that is how they learn. That it's not just something that we squeeze in to a half hour or an hour of our time each day. So let's take a look quickly at the objective for the day. There's one, one objective. Explain how play is learning for young children, because this is really hard for us. And it's really hard for us to talk play, even amongst our peers. I attended a job career fair in Mankato, for those of you in Minnesota, on Wednesday for about 1,600 sophomores in high school from the different districts around southwest Minnesota. And I had that question, what do you do all day? From several students, and they were so polite about it and so kind. I'm really rather impressed with our sophomores that were down there. But I can tell you that it was really hard for me, even on the spot, even as I drove the hour to get down there earlier in the day thinking about what I was going to say if students asked me these questions. It was still really hard for me to explain it to them because, they're coming from a place that they have no idea in some cases what early childhood education is. And so how do you explain that to them in a quick period of time to catch their interest and inspire them to maybe choose this as a profession? So it's hard to do, and it's probably going to be something you're not going to be able to master. The other reason is because it's very individual, and we'll talk about that in a moment too. But it's going to be something you're going to constantly need to work on. So I want you to take a moment. So I want you to kind of sit in your seat wherever you are, take a quick drink of coffee or your morning beverage, and kind of just relax into your seat for a second, okay? And I want to ask you some questions, and I want you to think in your head, okay, what the answers to these questions might be. And as you're thinking of these questions, I want you to kind of imagine it in your brain, kind of think back to what I'm going to be asking you to do. Envision it in your head, and really just kind of take a moment, okay? So take a deep breath, and then let it out. And I want you to think about this question. How did I play when I was little? Who did I play with? Where did I play? What's the first toy or material that pops into my head that I remember that I used to play with? Where were the adults when I was playing? All right. So now you might have some of those thoughts in your head. And I want you to think and type in the chat box the first word or couple words that come to mind when you were going through those questions in your head. And write them in the chat box for me. Playing was fun. No adults around, outdoors with neighbors, outside, lots of outside. Freedom to play. Interesting. Imagination, yes. Another world. Ah, I love that. Natural materials, limited playtime. Neighbors, yeah. Freedom to run around on a farm, outside. Not many adults. You've said that several times. Few toys because I was always made to play outside with the neighbor kids. Lots of imagination. Wonderful. And family, yeah. I hope those memories were positive ones. Sometimes we do come across some that are not so positive, and I'm sorry for that. Um, I always encourage you to try to think of the good ones that were there, even if they're small. Allowed to get dirty. Wonderful. Fisher Price toys by myself. Oh, yes. I was an only child too, so I did play by myself a lot. I want to share with you a couple of memories that I have of playing when I was a young child. Um, my first one was that the one on the left, a picture of a phone, and this is like the first phone that I could find that really showed what I remembered. I would go to my grandparents' house to be cared for by them. They were my babysitters who lived in the town, same town, not too far from where I lived. And so they were my babysitters, and I'd go and spend time with them. And one thing that my grandmother had was a ton of tchotchkes. You know what that is? Like little statues and little things everywhere. Little statues, little vases, little dishes, little things all over the house. And God bless her, she did not worry about me breaking anything. But I remember very vividly playing garage sale with my grandparents. And I would use their push button phone, because yes, that's dating me. I use that push button phone as the register, right, to be able to type in how much they were owing me. I would take masking tape that they would give me, and I would put stickers on with masking tape on all of the stuff, and I would pull out stuff from her cabinets on her shelves, and I would put it all on the table, and then my grandpa and my grandma would buy the stuff for me, and we'd use paper money. We'd make money sometimes we'd steal from the Monopoly that we had or that they had, and we would have a garage sale. And I had so much fun doing that. That was like I remember it really clearly and really fondly of how much fun I had with my grandparents playing garage sale, of all things, by myself with them. And to this day, well, not to this day, but a few years ago, before my grandmother passed away, and my grandfather passed away years before, she had expressed the interest in making sure that I could have some of those figurines that I used to play with when I was a little girl, when I played garage sale with her, and she remembered that. And she died at the age of 96. So she remembered that, and I was very impressed that she remembered playing with her granddaughter so many years ago. The other one that I want to share with you isn't such a positive experience. I was in preschool. I went to a preschool called Noah's Ark. It was a church-based program, although I was not religious at all by any means at that time. And it was just a community program. And I remember sitting at a table, a long table with the other kids in the group. And on this large table was a big basket in the middle of crayons, and they were all different colored crayons. It was a big, thick, deep basket of crayons, and it was all different colors. And on our table was it was our coloring time, and on our table was a piece of paper for each one of us with an outline of an elephant on it, like a whole side picture profile of an elephant, and a whole body. And we were asked to color the elephant. And so everyone dove into the basket of crayons, right? And we're digging in the basket of crayons, and everyone came up with their color, their gray crayons. And I could not find a gray crayon. Everyone, to me, had gotten all the gray crayons. I didn't have another one. And so I got a black crayon. And I thought, well, I love to color, so I will color it light using the black crayon, which is gray to me, right? I started coloring the elephant, and my teacher, who I remember her name, but I won't say it, I remember her name, stopped me and said that I was not allowed to use a black crayon, that I had to use a gray crayon because elephants are gray. And I thought to myself, okay, and I still remember that to this day, that experience. And I don't know how that experience influenced me, except that I did love to color and I did love to create things. But I really felt kind of diminished and kind of, I felt like I couldn't color anymore. And I don't think I finished my art that day, my drawing that day, or my coloring that day. But those were two very different experiences of play. One that was very open-ended, with some freedom, with some time, with opportunities for repetition, opportunities for interaction and engagement with adults or with other people. I'm sure if there would have been other children around, we would have played too. Versus a very directed activity that was very limited, that was very closed-ended, and potentially stifled, you know, my thinking that day. And hopefully not forever, but it was definitely something that made an impact on me and made an imprint on me going forward. So these memories of play, right, and your memories can be positive or not so positive as well. And they all shape and form us. And so it's really important, as we're talking about play, as we're wanting to share play with other people, that we understand our own perspectives on play, that we understand what has shaped our perspective, and that we make sure that we remember play and being a child. And she does talk about, Lisa Murphy, in her book, about play amnesia, childhood amnesia. We kind of forget about being a kid, what it was like, what we enjoyed, what you put into the chat box, what we maybe didn't enjoy, what you also put into the chat box, you know, that we forget. And so as educators, as parents, it's really important for us to remember what play was like for us. It's also important for us to make sure that we look at what play is doing for our children. And there's many, 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 many studies out there about play. And there's been some few of them in the news fairly recently, and these are a couple of them. So some research that was recently published in Child Development talked about a meta-analysis of 17 different studies of play. And they said that guided play, which I'll clear up in just a second, was just as much did just as much for executive function and literacy as direct instruction. And then the Lego Foundation, which we all know Legos, right? Definite open-ended play opportunity, right? Reviewed 26 studies of play from 18 different countries, which I think is really critical because the U.S. does not have a capital on play. And it talked about how play can reduce inequities and close achievement gaps for kids that are 3 to 6 years old specifically. And it can also help children process language, literacy, math, and social emotional skills. Without play, these studies talk about children have not the opportunity to practice what they learn. And so that's really critical for us, is understanding the importance of play. Whenever you can read a study on play, read it. Come across them on Facebook, on the internet. LinkedIn has always activity or articles and research presented. Look in your library. Find articles and books about play. Understand how play happens and works so that you're able to defend it with some certainty as well. So let's look at play-based learning here. So play-based learning, it's become kind of a catchphrase for how we talk about play in early childhood education. And I want you to think about play-based learning, for example, for a moment. And I want you to, if you're in an early childhood program, which I'm assuming most of you are in one right now, tell me in the chat box. Don't tell me where you're from, what program you're from. Just say, is your program play-based learning or not? Yes or no in the chat box. Is your program play-based or not? Somewhat, and yeses. Mostly yeses. Awesome. No, but you're doing it. Oh, that's fun. Good. Good. Make sure you get Lisa Murphy's books. Play-based learning is tricky. It's become a word that allows us to be appropriate. It allows us to be current in the now. It allows us to be credible. It allows us to be research-based, right? To say that we're play-based, right? But what does play-based really mean? Okay, and I want you to think about that for a second. We say that our programs are play-based, and that's often an answer to the question. Well, what is your program like? What's your curriculum like for your kids? Do you play all day? Well, we're play-based. What does that mean? So tell me in the chat, what does play-based mean to you? What does play-based mean to you? It's important to know this because play-based has a lot of connotations right now. Child-led, okay. Learning through play, learning experiences through play. Let the children choose what they want to play with, okay? Using their skills and their imagination, learning through play. Awesome. Environment is the curriculum. Maybe a little bit of Reggio going on there. Playing indoors and outdoors. Allowed to learn, okay. Learning with play and our children choose their interest. Teaching the play way method. So here's another question for you. What does play look like to you? What does play look like to you? Watched over by the teacher without interruption, child-led. So Arlene says play looks like exploring. Adults provide materials, children have choices. This is a hard one, huh? Interacting with other kids with or without toys, teacher and child included with children's imagination. Thorough answer there, Jamie. Exploring, engaging, and interacting with materials, okay. Letting them choose what they want to do and engaging and play with them, letting them lead. So some good answers, you guys. Letting children take the lead and play through imagination. Lots of language, yes. Manipulating materials and engaging. These are really great answers. And I would say that you're probably all right, right? So play-based learning can and has sometimes been used as not an excuse, kind of like a cover-up for what might really be going on in a classroom. Play is the foundation for learning. How many of you learned that play is children's work? I remember learning that, play is children's work. What is your connotation of work? Some people would say not very much fun, right? You have to do it, right? You have to do it to make a living. It might not be a good time. I do what I do to work to make money, but it's not what I love to do, right? Work does not always have the best connotation around it. So we're saying that play is children's work. Okay, well, are we saying that they don't enjoy play, that they find it that's something they have to do versus something they want to do? How is play being perceived? So when you think about play-based learning, is your program truly having play as its underlying, and I'm going like this, play as its underlying foundation, that everything happens through play? Right? Everything happens through play. And that play is something that is allows children to be directing themselves, to be interacting with other children, interacting with adults, interacting with materials, exploring materials, rather open-ended kind of type of thing. They're toddlers and they're awesome. You know, toddlers just they play. That's what toddlers do. So instead of thinking about play as a children's work, think about play being something that children do. It's who they are. It comes out of their natural state of being if we let them do it. So think about play-based learning as a natural state of being for children. And how are we nurturing that natural state of being so that children can learn by repetition, by interaction, by experimentation and curiosity and all of those things. So let's keep going here. We don't be here to talk just about play, but I do want to make sure that I clarify with you how play is happening in your program. So there are different types of play. There's all kinds of different types of play, depending on how you're looking at it. I wanted to look at it today as who is play for? And I think this is important to remember too. So in your program, if you're asked about play, who is play for in your program? Is play for the child? Is play for you to be able to check off boxes to complete those standards? Is play some combination? Is play only directed by the teacher or the adults in the room? We talked a lot about, when I asked you about play, your play experiences as a child, most of it did not involve adults at all. Limited adult interaction or no adult interaction, right? And those are probably your most impressive, memorable times. And if you think back to those times, you probably learned quite a bit during those times, either how to interact with other children, how to make decisions, how to follow through, you may have learned concepts, cognitive concepts, you may have learned math, you may have learned a different language, all without a teacher being around you or interacting with you. So there's a couple thoughts on play. Is your program, is what you're talking about to your stakeholders, to your parents, about guided play, which means, as some of you talked about, setting out the environment for the children so that you're kind of guiding them, you're kind of nudging them in a direction to play, right? So that maybe you can make sure to kind of experience some of those standards we're forced to follow. But so you're kind of guiding their thinking, right? You're maybe presenting what they call provocation. So you're providing a beautiful display of art materials and such to be able to paint with, and the children are like, ooh, that's beautiful, I want to do that too. That you're inspiring their play. All along, you're also trying to make sure you can assess certain things by watching them do that activity. Or is it open-ended play? And I hate the term free play, because that really isn't it, right? We don't let the children run amok, right? And that's usually what comes into parents' heads. When you say free play, is like, oh, my children are just crazy town, right? They're just running amok. And then you guys are just sitting there watching them run amok. And that's what they think of immediately. For whatever reason, that comes into their head. Open-ended play means I have no preconceived notion of what's going to happen during their play. I have not necessarily guided them in their play. I'm not specifically looking for the outcomes of a particular standard or a particular objective. I am just facilitating and watching and observing them do their thing. Children do their thing, right? That's what we want them to do. And we can watch and observe and then tick off all those boxes of things that we've seen them do during their play. Then we can check it off. So let the children do all three, different times a day, different kinds of play. Absolutely, and there should be a variety. I mean, personally, I'm of the school of thought that there should never be any teacher-directed activities in an early childhood classroom. And by teacher-directed, I mean, the children are all doing the same thing together at the same time, and the teacher is leading the way, right? The teacher's the one up there saying, okay, everybody, put your triangle on the eye of the pumpkin or the jack-o'-lantern. Oh, that's right, that's the perfect spot. That no one's directing their work, right? That's my personal train of thought, but I know that's not everybody's train of thought. So how can you look to make sure you understand what type of play is happening in your program and who is it for, so that when people ask you about play, you understand who and what you're talking about, right? And you're talking about the fact that today, I was able to, or we put out some amazing new materials in the block area today. We put some ramps in there, some long boards, some tubes that had big holes in the middle, and we put different things out there. Because in our minds, we're hoping that they start building ramps and running cars down them, seeing distance and speed and all that kind of good stuff. They might do something different with them, but that's kind of my plan. That's a guided play type of an activity. Open-ended play would be the kids playing in the block area and being like, hey, Miss Mary, do we have any tubes? Or do we have anything that we can run the cars down really fast? Or can we use this to use with our cars in the block area? That's open-ended play. It's coming truly from the children. Whoa, 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 whoa. Lisa Murphy also talks about a few things to think about when you're talking about play and planning for play and planning in your classroom for play. That every day children should have these 7 things. They should have a chance to create, to move, to sing, to discuss. Do we ever discuss a lot with our children? Truly discuss. Observe each other, observe the world outside, things that are going on, to read, and to play. So think about how children in your program are doing these things. You can use these terms to help explain play to stakeholders, parents, and each other when talking about young children. And then there's another workshop that we're doing on Wednesday with my colleague, Teresa McKay, a little bit more about developmentally appropriate practices in play. But it's really important to make sure that we are connecting all the dots for our parents and our stakeholders. So those of you that follow developmentally appropriate practices, which is hopefully all of you, because it is not a curriculum, it's an approach, it's a position, a perspective on play, on children's development and activities and curriculum, that you all should be doing something that's developmentally appropriate for the children in your program. But thinking about what play and how play is developmentally appropriate. So what about this activity that you see here with these young children building with blocks? What about that is developmentally appropriate? And you can get over the fact that they're all wearing uniforms, okay? These are young school agers building an amazing, I'm thinking amazing block structure. That looks like they're maybe building their school. So there are definitely developmentally appropriate skills going on. So there is some literacy happening with labeling of parts of the building that they're creating. There's patterning going on. There is community work, meaning the 3 of them are communicating with one another and building. And then there's a group of kids in the back that are also building something. Looks like it might be connected, may not be. There is all kinds of shape recognition and matching going on. There is balancing, spatial recognition, spatial awareness. All of these things are developmentally appropriate concepts that children are experiencing within this one activity. So looking at how you can connect those 2 together for your parents and for your stakeholders is really the key. So let's look at how we can do that. An adult is also participating, absolutely, absolutely. That is really a facilitator, right? They're not standing over them, directing them and telling them what to do. They're sitting down next to them, building alongside them. Oh, I hate my mouth. So instead of thinking about defending play, we need to promote play in our communication with others. And it's really to understand the different types of play to expand understanding. So we want to describe this to our families whenever we can, whether it's in newsletters, whether it's in conversations at pick-up and drop-off, whether it is at conferences. We want to talk about what types of play the children are participating in at that time. We take it for granted that we know that our toddlers are doing parallel play, but do parents understand what that means and the benefits of parallel play? Do they get it, right? And it's important to use those terms and explain those terms to our families when we can. And analyze those connections between play and learning. Like I just did with that picture of those blocks, right? What are children learning from what they're doing? We need to make sure that we're very clear with that. One way we can do that is by posting images of what the children are doing. Right now, a lot of our programs, not all, but I know a lot of them have technology in them. We use iPads to track children's eating and sleeping and diapering and toileting and all that kind of stuff, and we take pictures of the kids. Instead of just taking that proverbial everyday picture of the child smiling at the camera or the child doing the same activity every day, take pictures of the children doing the things that, taking pictures of those special activities the children do every day. Take pictures of the everyday activities the children do during the day. Washing their hands, sitting at group time, interacting on the playground with their friends, putting on their coat, and really connect then with the parents. You know, boy, this child is really learning something by telling them what their child is experiencing, so that they can see that connection very clearly. Explain key play materials and how they are influencing learning. So that's one of the interesting things that you can do in newsletters. You can do this in emails home to the parents. You can do it as a post on the wall in your classroom or on your parent board if you have one that says, you know, kind of like spotlight of the week. Here's some of our materials, and here's what children learn by playing with them. So here's a picture of our Unifix cubes. Here's what children are learning by playing with Unifix cubes, and here's some pictures of the children playing with Unifix cubes. That's kind of a way to help educate parents, promoting play without having anybody ask you questions about it, without having to defend it. Yes, helping another child zip up her jacket. What a great visual for parents to see their child helping another child, right? Not only do they have the skill of zipping, but they have the skill of helping. What a nice thing. Engaged in the activities the children do and send them out in a weekly email for parents. Parents see what they're learning. Do they really see it though, Erica? And that's the key. They might see that their child is playing with these blocks or that child is painting this picture, but do they get what the child is experiencing by painting that picture? Do they know what it is? Can you label it for them so that they see it? Because I agree, sending pictures home for parents to see what the children are doing during the day on like their everyday stuff is really important. We send home great pictures when the firefighters come to visit or when we have a specific guest coming in or we have a guest reader, but do we have those pictures of the everyday stuff that children experience and how important that everyday experience is to their learning? We do label each picture. Cool, and that's good. I would even encourage you to look at it and say a step further. What are they learning in this picture, right? What are they experiencing in this picture? I know it takes a little bit more time and a little more space, but it is worth it in the end when parents can come back to you at conference time or when your child's ready to move up to the next age group and you can actually tell them these concepts and they know what you're talking about. Provide time for parents to observe play, play with their children, and talk about what they're learning. So another way to promote play is to invite parents into the space. Now, I know this is not something that is easy for some parents to do and virtually impossible for some parents to do. And I think that's really important to remember and to try to plan around. Is there a way that you could have a chance to video record an activity during the day? That then you can send that out in a secure way to the parents in your program. So not just photos, but a short video so that they can see the play. Not you talking about what's going on, but more of a, you know, hey, we wanted to share with you a little bit more about our day-to-day. And so here we're going to show you our activity where we were all painting underneath the table, laying on our backs like Michelangelo. So you've got the video of the kids under the table painting, and the parents are watching, and then at the end of the video you can say something like, did you notice the kids were able to, you know, paint upside down, which is a skill that helps, you know, with their vestibular sense. And, you know, you could go on to all of these purposes as to why you had the kids do this, right? And what benefits of development are coming from that play. Class dojo, so families can see videos doing activities. And that is awesome. And there are some really great programs out there that do it well and provide you opportunities to share video and provide you opportunities to share photos. And if you have those, make sure that they also provide you opportunities for some documentation as to what is going on in that video. So with a description and information about what they're learning so that parents understand, right? Parents don't always get it, and so repetition, just like with kids, is important. So when you're talking to parents, what you need to make sure to do is cover all these bases. It's the who, what, where, why, and how, when, and how. Who, what, when, you know what I mean, of regular communication. And it's important to have all of these components so that parents see the big picture of what you're doing with the kids. Now, you don't have to do this for every single thing you do all day long with children. You'd be dead. But you can pick some of those key everyday activities that parents and you might take for granted and figure out how you can communicate this to the families. You want to communicate what you see, be objective and detailed, right? Don't put any presupposition as to the children are enjoying their time. Just talk about what they're doing, just an objective observation. Who is participating? Names are important because parents want to know that their children are social. I've had quite a few parents over the years, be more concerned about who their children are playing with and how they're playing and interacting with one another than whether or not they have key concepts. They want to know that their children can get along with each other. And some children have a hard time doing that. So it's even more important to talk about, that they've got people they're playing with or people they're playing next to, which is even just as important for our youngest ones. When and where they experience play, right? Because that will help you also note where and when aren't they playing? So have you noticed that there's particular kids that are always in the block area and other kids that are never in the block area? That can help you determine that as well. But it's important for parents to see that too. Occasionally you'll get questions from parents saying, I want my child to be able to write more. I don't see a lot of writing samples from my child. Like they don't label their own work. I noticed that they didn't want to do that activity the other day where they were labeling something or writing something or practicing their writing skills or their letter writing skills. When your that child instead has an amazing sense of spatial ability because he can create 3- and 4-story block structures that are absolutely amazing. So his intelligence may not be with writing, it might be with creating. How can you combine then and help that parent understand that what he can do as he's creating? Maybe we can encourage him to label what he's creating, or maybe we can encourage him to dictate to us a story about what he's created, and we can write it down for him. So how can we bridge the gap between those two for parents? And then how are they experiencing play? What are they doing that they are learning from? What types of skills are they accomplishing during that time of play? So Lisa Murphy and others have some strategies that you can use when you're talking to parents about play or activities that you're doing. And I wish I would have thought of this and connected it to my talk with my sophomores on Wednesday. It might have helped me to better explain to them what they would be doing with young children. So it's when we blank, we are learning blank. This one came directly from Lisa Murphy's article about when the wolves come knocking, and it's on her Ooey Gooey website. So you can take a look at that really great article about how to talk to parents and key stakeholders about play. And here's the example that she gave. When we stack blocks, we are learning about balance, gravity, and patience. Come let me show you the photograph of the tower Karen made today. She worked on it for a solid half hour. And I would even say include, she did it while 2 of her friends watched her create this tower, or she created it along with, if there was a friend helping her, that way, parents can see that social connection. But what a great way to share that with your parents. You can also do that with stakeholders. Say you come across one of your local legislators, your local government officials, and they ask about, hey, I hear your program is play-based. Tell me more. Well, when we are stacking blocks, for example, the children are learning about balance, gravity, and patience. You know what I mean? I can send you some photos of the children creating block structures in our program. You would be very impressed at what they can come up with. That would be something that you could share with a stakeholder. Another way you could share it would be to say today, and then the child's name, was interacting, exploring, investigating in the science area, and compared on how some items float and some items sink. They were practicing concepts of, and you can add if there's a standard that you're practicing for that, or that aligns to that. If there is a learning concept that's part of your goals that you're having them practice. Maybe it's the chance to experiment, right? Test things out. You want them to put something, make a guess. Is this going to sink or float? Put it in there. Oh, it's sunk. I thought it would float. Those kinds of things. So it's a way to connect learning for the people that you are talking to so that they're able to understand on your terms what you mean when you talk about play and how children are learning in play. Yes, it takes a little bit of forethought. It takes a little bit of you making sure that you understand what the children are doing in your presence and how they are learning those activities. So here's some examples. So the proverbial block example, right? What do children learn in block area? Or what do children learn in dramatic play? So in the chat, I want you to take a second, choose one of the two, okay? Some people like block, some people like dramatic play. And I want you to use, I'll go back to it, use the first one. When we blank, we are learning blank. Give me a complete statement, kind of like Mad Libs, right? Give me a complete statement. When we are in the block area, we are learning. When we are in dramatic play, we are learning blank. And I want you to get specific. Give at least 2 or 3 things that they're learning. And put that in the chat. Awesome, Carol, thank you. First one down. Very cool. Yep, a little bit of engineering there too, June, right? We're talking about STEM concepts for families, right? That's an early engineering concept, right? We're back here, learning persistence, persistence, yes, absolutely. Teamwork and flexibility in thinking. Now, sometimes you might even have parents go, so what does that mean? Or why is that important to you or to their development? And then you might have to connect those concepts to the adult world for them. Why is flexibility in thinking a good thing to have as an adult? Right? Problem solving is really critical as an adult, right? If you can't solve problems, you kind of get stuck, right? So you need to maybe bring that to light for them. And sometimes connecting that back to their adult world helps. Shapes. Take a look at these, everybody. These are great examples of what children are learning. We're learning imagination, hand-eye coordination. A lot of people chose the block area. Dramatic play, we're learning social, emotional, and communication and language skills. They're learning how to coordinate, right? Sharing, cooking, and colors. Wonderful. Let's try another one. So you got this little guy over here digging in some sand. Looks like he's outside. And then you have, oh, perfect, Billy. I like how you talk about learning about others and how cooking happens in other people's homes. Excellent. So let's try this one. When we're in sand play or finger painting, choose one. When we are playing in the sandbox, we are learning blank. When we are finger painting, so most parents don't get finger painting. They really don't. They see it as messy play that they don't understand. So how can we help them understand? And this happens to be a group of 3 little ones, 3 young girls it looks like, 3 young children. Thinking, problem solving, and creativity, Vernell, thank you. So try it with one of these 2. Tactile skills, ooh, good one. Color recognition and communication skills, awesome. And you might even go even deeper with the tactile skills. We're experiencing what smooth and soft feels like. slippery, slimy feels like. We're learning new vocabulary, right? And sensory. Learning about architecture there too, Jamie. Absolutely. Learning it has value. Love that. These are really good answers. Okay to get dirty. Yeah, I know one of the things that I remember getting a lot as a toddler teacher was we'd have on the wall for the parents to see these finger painting pictures, just pieces of paper, usually white paper with colors all over it, right? And some of them were black, right, because the kids combined all the colors, and they were just painting on the wall. And parents would look at that and they would immediately not see the benefit to that. They only saw the benefit if it happened to be cut in the shape of an apple because it was Apple Week. They wouldn't see the benefit of it being just a piece of paper. You know, I'm of the mindset that when children create something, we don't alter that. We don't finish it for them. We don't add to it. We don't cut it. We don't adjust it in any way because they've created it and it's theirs. And that's what they're going to recognize as theirs. But helping parents understand that value of creation is so important. These are great answers, you guys. Great answers. Now really think about and personalize these to answers that you would give to parents in your program. You know your parents. You know what they expect. You know what they request, what they hope for their children. Hopefully you know all those things. And how would you answer it for each one of your children? It may need to be different. While the concepts may still be the same, how you address it with them might need to be a little bit different. You might be able to say tactile skills with one family, but then another family may look at you and go, I don't even know what tactile means, right? So getting down to the level that they need to really absorb it and understand it as a parent will be really important. Last one. Art and digging in the dirt. So this one here is similar to the finger painting picture. Check out these kids. They're in the little hazmat suits, which I love, and they're painting, large body painting, right? What are some concepts that they are learning in this photo? And what are some concepts that this little one, who's very curious and really observing something that looks like it might just be on our picture here, but he's in the dirt. He looks like he might have a truck there and some shovel or some kind of a scoop in his hand. What do you think he is experiencing? And what is he learning about in the dirt? And why are those skills important to learning, right? How are those skills going to prepare him to go to school, right? Parents are so worried right now about making sure their children are ready for school. You know, big thing, schools should be ready for the children, but nevertheless, we are in a society where families are very concerned about their children being ready for school. So what does that mean, right? What do we have to do to explain how play, yes, not only helps children learn concepts and skills that we can connect to, but how will that prepare them for school? Right? How will that prepare them for school? How will being able to plan a piece of picture, listen to me, how will that help them do well in school, right? How will that help them accomplish and be successful in kindergarten? So any questions? We are at our time. This is an ongoing conversation. It's not something you're going to master today or tomorrow, and it's not something that's going to be the same for everyone. Like I said, all of our kids are different, and so are their families. So helping them understand play, what their child is learning in play, and how that connects to the world that that parent and family sees that child in is really your job. Earth's environment, using our fingers and hands to build our muscles, and using their creativity as they explore. Awesome. And Chanel, how do you then connect that to then how children will be ready for school so that they can see that play is that foundation for lifelong learning? It's not just something, it's something kids do, but it's not just something they do. It's something they do that helps prepare them for the future. Right. We'll sit in the truck and communicating with your peers. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. I hope that this is giving you some food for thought when it comes to how you communicate play to families, to stakeholders that are important to your children. And remembering that play is the foundation for all of life's learning. When there's many studies out there that talk about how children who are deprived of opportunities for play really struggle. I know with the current crisis in Ukraine, there's a lot of concern for those kids that even in the months plus that they have been in isolation or in the underground in a bunker, you know, hiding from the bombings, how they've been separated from their friends and separated from their schools and their communities, how that's going to affect them, right? We already know about children at the border of our country who have been there for a long time or have been trying and traveling across South America to try to get here, and how much time away from play that means, right? They could be playing at home with their friends in their neighborhood, right, in their community, but because of the situation there, they've had to come here. So how is that going to affect their lifelong development, right? We already are starting to look at how trauma affects us and how the ability of children or the inability of children to be able to interact with peers and play with other children can affect their lifelong learning and experience as a child here in this country who's experiencing trauma or experiencing, you know, other types of hardship that prevent them from playing. So it's a lot of information to think about. It's a lot deeper than you might think about, but it's so important for us. We can't be defending play. We have to be promoting it, and we have to be connecting it to the people in our community that need to know. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you are able to come to our Wednesday night session all about play and developmentally appropriate practice, actually about joyful play and developmentally appropriate practice. I think you'll really enjoy Dr. McKay and her session on that evening. And I hope that you also connect with us on social media this week, learn a little bit about Week of the Young Child, and have a great week, everybody. Have a good weekend, too. I forget, it's still Saturday. Have a good weekend, everyone.